Hi there, beautiful people. How are you doing? I'm really glad we're together again, and today we're going to be talking about breastfeeding. It's August, and it's International Breastfeeding Awareness Month, and I had the intention to make a video all about the 10 best breastfeeding practices, or how to increase your milk supply really quickly. And I'll make those videos because those will be good videos and they'll help a lot of people. But I really wanted to share something different today. I wanted to share my personal story about breastfeeding because breastfeeding was really wonderful for me, but it was honestly one of the most challenging experiences of my life, and I want to share my story because it really truly is a story of feeling like a failure and feeling like I didn't have confidence, I had poor body image, a whole bunch of shame, and I was comparing myself to other people. And so I want to share that video. So today's episode of Apothecary Wisdom is all about my breastfeeding failures and how that failure was the most powerful thing and the best thing that ever happened to me. So if this is our first time meeting, my name is Maria Chaudhry. I'm a mother and a midwife and an herbalist. And actually, as a mother, I have a son, and I ended up breastfeeding him for 3 years, in spite of all the struggles. And as a midwife, I've had the honor and privilege of attending hundreds of home births here in Northwest Arkansas and helping them have safe births at home. And as an herbalist, I created a line called Botanicals, and we've helped thousands of women continue to breastfeed. So right from the start, this is a live video. We're live on Facebook, but I want you to go ahead, because you'll be probably watching this on YouTube too, so go ahead and push like on this video, push subscribe to our channel, and ring the bell, because if you want to watch videos that are unique from a midwife and herbal perspective, you want to ring the bell. And every Friday, we'll upload new videos. Okay? So let's get started, and I want to share my story, my breastfeeding story with you. Because this channel, I sometimes do like making the videos of the list of 10 things that are going to really help you out, right? And at the same time, I want to create a safe place where we can come to and share ourselves, and we can really experience deep transformation, right? And we can grow together. And so in order for me to create that space, I feel like I need to share my story with you. Okay, and so I want to set the scene of me learning to breastfeed. Okay, I already told you how much I loved it, and it was my hardest thing ever. So here's the scene. I had been an apprentice midwife for several years. I had already attended 67 home births. I felt very prepared for my birth, and I thought I was really prepared for my breastfeeding postpartum experience. I mean, I read all the books. I went to La Leche League meetings. I helped women perfect their latch and problem solve with their breastfeeding problems. I came from a culture of people, like I saw my mom breastfeed, I saw all my mom's friends breastfeed. So for me, breastfeeding was the most obvious natural extension. It was really my only choice. I didn't conceive that I would do anything else other than breastfeeding. Okay, so that's where I came from, or how I entered breastfeeding. And I knew it was going to be hard, but I knew the benefits of breastfeeding exponentially outweighed like sore nipples, right? And I mean, I just came from that place. So here we are, and as I'm reflecting, I am so grateful that I came from such a deep-rooted place that I trusted natural birth and natural parenting and breastfeeding, because when I was in the midst of it, if I didn't have those deep roots, I would have easily been swept away, right? Okay, so let me start this story, and I'm telling this story from the frame of reference of how I felt at the time, okay? So, I had this girlfriend from high school. You know, she's your, like, frenemy. She's your best friend, and at the same time, you really think you're better than her. As a matter of fact, you know you're better than her in so many ways, right? Every time things get hard in life, she quits and you don't, right? So for example, I have a long list of examples of the ways that I'm better than her. So when we were younger, we went to massage school together. Right off the bat, it was not right for her. She dropped out. Later, we joined karate together. She dropped out at white belt. I'm a second-degree black belt. We took a hike. We planned on this hike for months. We planned for this hike for months. The first week, she heads home. I hike 250 miles with a 60-pound backpack, and I make it home, right? We want to travel. She goes off and travels with her boyfriend in a van in the United States. I travel by myself with a backpack to Central America, and I come home learning a new language. Here we go. We give birth. I give birth in July. I have a home birth. I have a long, hard home birth, and I push my little tiny 5.5-pound baby outside in a pool of water in the backyard. In October, she gives birth. She also has a long, hard birth. She starts off at home, but we need to transport her, and she has a very necessary cesarean section because her baby is nearly 11 pounds. So, here we go. Now we have these babies. And every 2 hours, I'm nursing, and every 2 hours when I'm nursing, my baby's crying, and my baby's losing weight, and when I pump, I can't even pump out an ounce of milk. I took herbs, I read books, I called my midwife, I called the lactation consultant, I changed my diet, I did the massages, whatever it took, anything that I knew how to do, I did it. So, on the other hand, here she is. She has this huge fat Buddha baby. I have a skinny little monkey. She has the fattest Buddha baby I've ever seen. She nurses every 3, 4, maybe 6 hours. When she squeezes her breast, milk shoots across the room. She pumps bottles and bottles full of milk. She didn't read a book. She didn't change her diet. She didn't take a La Leche League class. She didn't do anything. And without her doing a single thing just like that, she defeated me on every single level. And, I mean, what does it matter if I can have a career, if I can hike, if I can learn a language, or if I can have a black belt? What does it matter if I can do all those things, but I can't feed my baby? If I can't feed my baby and I can't breastfeed, I'm failing as a woman, and I'm failing as a midwife. And I'm the expert. I'm the one that's prepared, and I'm the one that knows how to do it. So, do me a favor. If anything I say in this video, help me out here. If anything I say in this video is like touches something in you, give a heart or thumbs up, because it's going to improve the algorithm, and it'll let videos like this be seen more and more, and it'll help my channel grow. So will you do that for me? A little thumbs up right now. Okay, so let's talk about failing. All right, and what it's like to fail. And in order to talk about failing, I want to compare how men fail at something and how women fail at something. So when a man works hard, he has a goal, he wants to be successful, and he strives for it, but he doesn't make it. He misses his mark. He fails. And then when he self-evaluates, he's like, oh, maybe I needed to give it a little bit more effort or a little bit more time or discipline. Or maybe I needed a different tool or a strategy. For him to fail, he evaluates his performance. It's the lack of his performance is why he failed. Compare that to a woman. When a woman fails, she immediately feels like she is the failure. She is not good enough. She is not capable enough. She is not worthy enough. It is not a reflection of her performance. She didn't fail because of her lack of effort. She failed because who she is. Right? Let that sink in, because I want that to kind of sink into you. So I want you to pause for a minute, and we're going to talk about confidence. And how does that feel when I just said what I just said? I'm going to repeat. Women feel like we fail because of who we are. We fail. It doesn't matter how much effort or how skilled we are. We're failures just because of who we are. Right? Let that sink in. And feel your body. Like, what does that feel like in your body when you start to be like, no, I failed. I as a person failed, not my action. Like, I don't know how you feel in your body, but when I am sensing that sense of failure, it's like a sinking feeling. It's not a rooted feeling. It's a sinking feeling, one of separation and one of isolation, and one that leads me into a deep, dark pit of depression. Right? That's what I feel like when I am an utter failure. But we can't leave us here on this place, right? I can't leave you here in this place. We need to rebuild up and reestablish our confidence. Because breastfeeding takes confidence. Mothering takes confidence. I mean, shoot, when you were making that baby, you felt confident or you felt some kind of way, right? So we need to rebuild that up. So what is confidence? So put in the comments what confidence is, what confidence means to you. How do you feel when you feel confident, right? And simply put, confidence is trust, and confidence is seeing a clear pathway to being successful. So confidence is cultivated and confidence is grown, right? I mean, and we can simultaneously overestimate ourselves because of our confidence, and we can underestimate ourselves because of our self-confidence. For example, breastfeeding is going to be easy for me because I'm Maria, and I want to do it, and I feel passionate about it. Of course. Versus, here's underestimating myself. I'm failing at breastfeeding because I'm Maria, and I'm not adequate, and I suck. Right? So, we need to cultivate confidence so that we're not in this underestimating of ourselves. And so in order to cultivate confidence, we need to tap into our resources. We have resources of skills, of things that are known and seen and obvious, and some that are hidden. So if we're trying to breastfeed our baby, we need to ask ourselves, what resources do I have to be successful at breastfeeding my baby? So you got to ask yourself, what resources do I have to breastfeed my baby? Well, I've got breast, I've got a baby, I've got a little bit of milk, right? I've got herbs to help me. I've got books. I could call a lactation consultant. What else do I have? I have life experience. I mean, even if you're watching this video and you're 16 years old, you have life experience. You've already been through something hard. You had something hard and you've already been through it, right? You have experience. And you are also, another resource that you have is that now you're a mother. You are now a member of a global group of billions of women, past, present, and future, that have successfully breastfed their babies despite all the challenges. That is powerful. Tapping into resources like that helps build your confidence. Like I said, you have books, but you also have videos. I encourage you to kind of binge watch all my breastfeeding videos, because even if you're not sitting there thinking you have mastitis, I talk about really relevant things in that video, and also specifically the sore nipple video, because that talks a lot about like best breastfeeding practices, and I talk about all the problems that could lead to sore nipples, and all those problems lead to really every other breastfeeding problem. And so if you're having a breastfeeding problem, watch that video, okay? The link is in the description. But once you realize that you have resources, now we have to tap into the hidden resources. So you have to ask yourself, okay, I want to be successful at breastfeeding. What resources do I have? So what resources do I need? Right? And so then you evaluate. It might be something simple, like maybe I need to drink more water, and I need to change my diet, and I need to call the lactation consultant, or I need to figure out the lip tie or the thrush, or I need to figure out this mastitis problem. You have something you need. Maybe I need some herbs to boost my supply. You have to start to see what your needs are. And some of them are going to be practical things, like physical things. But really, when you start to really ask yourself, what is it that you need? It's probably going to be something like confidence, belief in myself, a support system, right? Right? And so get clear with yourself and be honest with yourself what it is that you need. Because once you start to see the resources you have and then the resources that you need, things become more clear and less overwhelming. When you're overwhelmed, it's just a symptom of not knowing where to start. Right? And so once you have a clear path, then you can start to make confident decisions. Because you know what? You're not perfect. But you know what you are? You are powerful. And you know what? You don't have all the answers. And you don't have to figure out your next 10 years of your life. Shoot, you don't even have to figure out the next 10 months of your life. All you have to do is know how to learn, know how to grow, and keep your eye on the horizon. Take it one day at a time, one step at a time. Right? That's all you have to do. And because once you start to do that, then you learn to trust in that small voice that's inside you. Sometimes it's a whisper, but it's like an impulse, and you'll feel it when you're in your clearest moments, when you're in your wisest, most expanded, rooted, connected, centered moments, and you have this knowing. That is a voice that you need to learn to trust. And you also, me too, we all need to learn to differentiate from the voice that made you feel small, separated, and depressed, that I'm not worthy. You need to know what that feels like in your body so that you can step into and ground down into your roots and into your wider expanses and your wiser self, so you can trust yourself when you're clear and expanded. And that voice, that's your intuition. And you have to work on cultivating that skill. Because as a mother, you are the primary care provider for this baby. You know, some of you are in partnership and some of you are single, right? And those of you that are in partnership, I'm not saying to not listen to your partner, right? Of course you have to make decisions together. At the same time, I want to compare one more thing. Let's compare men and women, okay? So I'm going to illustrate how this works. So for a woman, for her to feel confident in a decision well enough for her to like argue about it, she's got to be 80% solid on her facts, and she's like 80% solid that she's right? Before she's even gonna like be like, actually I have an opinion. Whereas a man is going to feel about 35% solid before he argues his opinion. I'm saying this to say is if your partner seems to have a passionate opinion about something that he's arguing, he may not really be rooted in the facts and the reality of the situation. He may not be as rooted as you are in the truth of the situation. And with your effective communication and skills of sharing your needs, you can probably influence him to change his perspective. You're not trying to change him. You're influencing his perspective, right? And if you want more information about how to do that, I made a video called How to Include Your Partner in Birth and Pregnancy and in Breastfeeding, and there's a link below. Because when you're postpartum, it's the time for you to have effective communication with your partner as efficiently as possible. So you'll want to watch that video. All right, let's get into some tough love here, right? Because that's what we need. You know, when you're dealing with our sensuality, our sexuality, we're dealing with pregnancy and birth and breastfeeding, we are in a time of our lives when we're simultaneously powerful and simultaneously vulnerable, right? That's where we are. And so I have this theory that phrases and statements like, oh, well, at least you tried. Or, well, at least you have a healthy baby. I kind of think those phrases came from men who see how hard we take failure and how hard we are on ourselves, and they're trying to make us feel better, right? I think that's where that came from. I mean, and our partners, you know, they can be really supportive, but like my partner Pritam, he was sweet and supportive and helped me, absolutely. But at the same time, deep down inside, he really couldn't understand why I couldn't just give Sequoia a bottle. I mean, shoot, Pritam was bottle fed. He's fine. I mean, millions, billions of babies are bottle fed. They're fine, right? And I want to walk lightly here because this is a delicate terrain we're about to enter into. But, I mean, when we don't have realistic breastfeeding expectations and we're not devoutly committed to breastfeeding and we're not confident, we are quickly swayed to giving bottles and supplementing, and we'll give bottles way earlier than we actually really need to. And this is why I love those old books written in the 1970s, the breastfeeding books from the 70s and the midwifery books from the 70s, is because they're partially maybe because that's the generation of my mentors, and I'm the descendant of those women, and I learned my art from them. But also because in their pages, there's some tough love in those pages of like, of course it's going to hurt. You know, like modern women don't always hear... Modern women hear, well, at least you tried, at least you have a healthy baby. Whereas in their decision, their care providers don't always like make them make their own decision, right? A lot of times women give birth in the hospital and the decisions essentially are just made for them and they're just led right through and they're not really making their own informed choices, right? And so what I'm trying to say is like, those older books from the 70s, they're real refreshing because they say things like, of course it's hard, of course you're going to have cracked, bleeding nipples. It's not called picnic. If it was easy, it'd be called picnic. It's not picnic. So let's just figure it out. I'll help you. We'll do it together. I mean, it's pretty much like that. And I think that's really refreshing. Because what's happening now, why I think it's so refreshing, is there's a whole generation of people that, you know, breastfeeding is optional. Like they truly believe and feel that they don't have to nurse and that it's normal to just give your baby formula. It is not normal. It is not natural. It's not biological to do that. It's actually damaging to our species to do that. And yes, formula has saved lives. Yes, We need it sometimes, and yes, there are special circumstances, and I'm speaking in broad terms, but babies die all over the world because women don't breastfeed and instead they have formula. Right? And that's a true thing. And so, and this is my perspective, that I just want everyone to know, like, you're going to pick what's best for you, just like I picked what's best for me and my baby. But my concern really is that there are perfectly capable, healthy, vibrant, powerful women that could breastfeed their babies, and instead they think they're making informed choices. They think they're making empowering choices, and they're going to give their baby formula, and instead, from my perspective, they're giving away their power, they're throwing away their money, they're risking their health, they're risking their baby's health. I mean, and then what happens is that choice ripples out into other areas of their life. Right? And it affects their business, it affects their relationships, it affects their trust in their body, their trust in their baby's body. It's a big deal. So, yeah. So it's a big deal. So, you can put a comment, a heart, a sad face, whatever you want to put in there, because I really think it's important for us to realize it's not normal and natural to do that. Okay, so let's get back to my story. Okay, I have the story I want to tell you. So here, remember the story? I'm completely defeated by my friend because my baby's crying and losing weight, and I can't pump and she can't. And so, being the herbalist that I am, I tried to figure it out, right? Because everything's figure-outable, and I have confidence in it, even though I'm defeated, because I'm failing powerfully instead of failing, right? And so I'm asking myself, what resources do I need? What do I need to do to figure this out? This is way harder than I thought. So I've started to make these teas. I clearly remember it was goat's root and blessed thistle and marshmallow, and I made this tea, and it's like all thick, and I'm like, okay, I can drink it, and it is horrid. It is like, it's a snot-like, bitter, kind of wretched, intolerable drink, right? So don't do that. Okay, so that doesn't work. So then I'm like, oh, okay, I still have some of these herbs. I will pull out the coffee grinder and I'll grind these things up. And I had this like vitamin maker tray. And so I got some capsules. And now you have to remember, I'm postpartum. I have to nurse my baby every 2 hours who's crying all the time. And so you don't really have time to grind up the herbs and individually open up the capsules and put them in, and then individually sprinkle the powder in, and then pack it down and sprinkle the powder in, pack it down, and then cap them on. That takes a lot of effort. So that doesn't work. So then, after time, I got a little bit wiser, and I'm like, oh, I'll make a tincture out of it. So I made a tincture, and that was the beginning of Let There Be Milk. And it was through my struggles that I developed Let There Be Milk. And honestly, I had no idea that it was really going to help anybody else. And it was a complete surprise to me that it became so popular. I had no intention of making anything popular. I only had the intention of trying to solve my problem that was an urgent need that I had in the moment. And isn't that wonderful when you have an urgent need and you have a dark night of the soul and you get desperate and you start to get creative and you start to become a problem solver for yourself, and then you know what? You start to be able to help other people with their problems too, and that's really amazing. So when you're sitting there crying and you're thinking that this is so hard and you've never been in the lowest place, open up your creativity, because you might be able to help a whole bunch of other women pretty soon. And it's actually a really beautiful place that you're in. That's called transformation. Okay, let's go. So after I started taking my tincture, everything started to get a little bit better. It wasn't like overnight I was like amazingly, everything was perfect. No, but little by little I started to make a little bit more milk. My baby was a little bit more satisfied and satiated, cried a little less. Things were getting better. And so things were getting so much better, in fact, that I was like ready to like go out of my house. Other than going to my midwife's office, I hadn't been anywhere, right? And so I decided to go to the health food store, because I used to work at the health food store at the co-op, and I knew a bunch of people there, and I needed to get out of the house. And so I'm going to the health food store, and fortunately I'm sitting outside. I'm already kind of at the dining area when Sequoia wants to nurse. And one of my friends who shopped at the store a lot came up and he was talking to me. So can you imagine, think of The Simpsons and the bus driver. You know the bus driver guy with the long black hair and the hat and the headphones? That's who I'm talking to. Instead of this guy driving the bus, he is a caretaker for a cemetery. He's probably in his upper 50s and he dyes his hair black and he's wearing some heavy metal shirt, right? Anyway, super sweet guy. So I'm sitting there. Sequoia needs to nurse. I'm brand new. I've never been out of the house before. And I'm like not aware enough of other people. I'm only aware of my urgent need and my kids' urgent need. But I was savvy enough to be like, oh yeah, you're about to go out. You might have to nurse in public. So wear a button shirt. And it'll make it easier for you to nurse. Because at home, half the time, you're not even wearing a shirt. So, oh yeah, you need to wear a button shirt. So I'm there and I start like unbuttoning my shirt and I get my baby to the breast. I pull my breast out and I'm nursing him. And then I look up and I see this man is like, he doesn't know if like he should like look at me or look away or run away. And then all of a sudden he's awkward and I'm awkward and I'm like, oh, okay. So let me share you my learning experience and then the catch-22 of this learning experience, because this is all about body image. Okay, so lesson 1, when you wear a shirt, don't unbutton it from the top because it just shows your breast. Instead, if you're wearing a button-up shirt, unbutton it from the bottom and then you can cover your breast while you nurse. Wow. And the next thing, but here's the catch-22. I am like 6 weeks postpartum. When I gave birth, I weighed over 200 pounds. Like 60 pounds more than I weigh right now. So, and I had stretch marks, red stretch marks, and a big old fat pad that rolled out. So when you unbutton your shirt in public, your rolls tend to be expressed and exposed. Right? So then you have to decide, well, which part of my body am I going to reveal? My beautiful full breast? That's what I would choose, because at least it's full and beautiful and it's a breast. Who doesn't want to look at that? But society doesn't want you to show your breast, and the heavy metal guy didn't want you to show the breast, but he probably did, but didn't. He didn't know. We didn't know. So we're all awkward. So, but then society doesn't want you to show your breast, so then you decide to unbutton your shirt from the bottom, and then you're showing your fat pad, because that's what society wants. But then I guess, if we're really honest, what society thinks, I'm already 6 weeks postpartum. I should already be back to normal. I should have already lost some of my baby weight and already be back. Is that true? Put your comments in if any of this feels like you can relate to it, and what your breastfeeding experience is like, and the first time you went out into public, and what you felt about your body when you showed your body, and the little awkward moments about that. Okay, so because you know what, when you go out breastfeeding, the difference between you and me is I was breastfeeding 16 years ago and we didn't have all these fancy tank tops. You guys have awesome nursing clothes, so maybe your experience will be different. Well, and also you guys think you have to cover up your baby. At the time, that didn't cross my mind either. So, okay. The reason I want you to share in the comments about your experience is because, remember, you're now a mom and you're a member of a global community of women, right? And your story, your experience matters, and it helps other women. And it helps especially when they're in that place of feeling disconnected, alone, and depressed. And they hear your story, now they feel connected and they feel supported. And then we lift each other up. So put your story in the comments, okay? All right, let's get back to our breastfeeding story, the saga of me and this best friend, frenemy girl. Okay, so here's the story. So we have a mutual need. So we both need something from one another. I really want her thick, fat, rich, fat baby making milk, right? And she wants a massage because her back hurts, because she is carrying around gallons of milk every day and her back hurts now. So we make an exchange, a mutual win-win situation. I agree to come over and I massage her once a week in exchange for her to pump bottles of milk, of her milk for my baby. So the first time I give my son a bottle of her milk, and he just like sucked it down, sucked it down. Oh my God, I cried. I bawled and cried, and it crushed my soul, right? Because he was sucking down somebody else's milk, right? It wasn't my milk. And he sucked it down so fast, like it must have been great, right? And, but I was really proud of us as friends of figuring out a way to support each other. Her back was hurting, I needed milk. We found a way to make it work, right? And so even though I was crying, I still was going to keep it up. And I also really wanted him to gain weight and wanted him to suddenly be this fat Buddha baby. And so time passes, and eventually after several weeks and several bottles, I realized that my baby is not any more chill. He's not any more fat, and he's not any more happy. I start to secretly rejoice in the fact that her milk didn't fix my baby's problem. My baby didn't need her milk. My baby needed me and my milk. That was hallelujah, right? And so even though he was tiny, he was fit and he was healthy, and that was all that was enough, right? And I do want to say that everyone except my midwife and my mom, in some way or another, supported and loved me, telling me that I don't just rely on my milk, because my milk's not enough, meaning I'm not enough, and I should give my friends milk, or give them goat milk, or just give them formula. And none of them could really see. They would ask me, Maria, why are you putting so much into this? Why is it so important? Why? Why do you care so much? It's really not that big of a deal, right? And it is true that my son was tiny. When you look at the growth chart, there's the growth chart and all the numbers and the grid, and then his weight and length. Here's the chart here. His dot was not even on the chart, right? But he had regular bowel movements. He had good bright eyes. He had good color. He was alert. He was awake. He was gaining a tiny bit of weight, a little at a time, right? He wasn't lethargic. He didn't have jaundice, right? And so even though he didn't fit on the chart, he was okay. He was doing okay, right? And I say that everyone told me to give him formula or my friend's milk, but that's really not true, because honestly I didn't reach out to everyone. Sure, I talked to my midwife and I talked to my partner and my friend, but nobody else really knew what I was going through, because see, you have to remember, I'm the one that people come to for their problems. So I wasn't able to be vulnerable enough and to express my needs or my problems or my challenges with my friends or my peers, because I'm the expert, right? So I was alone in my suffering and in my challenge because I wasn't brave enough or courageous enough to ask for help, right? And actually, to be perfectly honest, that is still a challenge for me, because here I am 16 years later and it's still surfacing, because I didn't learn it then. I learned it to know that it was important, but not enough to actually learn it. And so until you learn, it's going to just keep surfacing. I'm in that place right now. That's probably why I'm making this video. Okay. So, just in the end of this story, of breastfeeding story for Sequoia, by the time he was about 6 months old-ish, I was starting to go back to births pretty regularly. So, when I went to births, he did get goat's milk, and he did get my friend's milk. And then when I was home, he would nurse with me all day, every day, all night, every night. Right? We did nurse until he was 3 years old. And after he turned 3, we had this weaning party because he was a big boy. I mean, he was going to school and he could go potty, and he was a big boy, and we went on a trip, and then it was like, okay, we're a weaning party, and we had a cake and a celebration and the whole deal. It was really awesome. And then, of course, the next day he got like a mild cold, and then I was like, oh shoot, is he sick? Should I nurse him? But it was a mild cold. We were okay. It was time. It was time. I just want to come back to the story, and I want to say, like, I'm sharing the story for a couple reasons. Really, I just want you to know that just because breastfeeding is normal and natural, obviously you know now that it's not easy, but just because it's hard doesn't mean you should quit either, right? So that's the big thing. And I also want to acknowledge that you might be in a situation like I was, where you're surrounded by loving people and they're trying to do the right thing, trying to help you feel better. But they don't understand the deep pull and need for you to breastfeed. They don't understand how painful it is to feel like a failure. They don't see it as a failure like we do, right? And the other thing, I just want to acknowledge that need for you to breastfeed, that is a deep generational pull. That is a biological pull. That is the impulse of a mother, right? And so that's strong and that's real. And I also want you to realize that I'm not making this video to put extra pressure onto you, for you to feel like you better not be a failure, you better not quit. I don't want to put extra pressure or judgment on you, because honestly, you're going to do that to yourself. There's no reason for me to put that on you, and I'm not going to put it. I'm not putting that on you, right? But I just want you to know that, like, in the right circumstances, if you can cultivate confidence and recognize your resources that you have available and identify the resources that you need, that ultimately you will be able to make a decision from yourself that you feel proud of. And then when you look to your future self, years in the future, that future self person will be really proud of you too, right? And I also want you to I want to highlight the cultivation of confidence and the cultivation of intuition and trust in yourself, because not only is it for this moment, but you will start to see, as you live your life as a mother and as a woman and as a person, as you start to go out into the world more and more, that you need that trust to navigate every step of the way, right? I also want you to remind you, you're a good mom. You're a good mom, and you are powerful, and you're doing all the right things, okay? So let me know in the comments, like, about your breastfeeding journey. And you know what I really want to hear? I want to hear some of the things that other people are telling you that they think is helpful. But I also want to hear your biggest wins, the challenges you face and then you overcame and you came out on the other side. That's what I want to hear, because I know you have that story. Here's just briefly the gold nuggets of the story, if you're going to distill it down. Your friends. Support your friends, but don't compare yourself to your friends. That will steal your joy. You're either going to win or you're going to learn, but you're not going to fail, right? And if you fail, if you feel like a failure, fail powerfully. And instead of sinking down into the deep pits of despair, ask yourself, what is the deeper truth? What is the lesson? Why are you in this situation? What is there for you to learn? What support do you need? Right? And confidence. Confidence is cultivated. You do not expect to just be confident because you're great. Yes, you're great. And you need skills and you need resources, right? And trust that inner voice, that inner small voice when you're in your clearest, widest, most expanded moment. That voice will never lead you astray. That is always the voice to follow. Okay? So, in the description box below, there are links to Let There Be Milk. So if you're dealing with a low supply like I was, here you go. If you're dealing with sore nipples, there's salve down there. If you're dealing with a whole host of breastfeeding problems, there are links to a bunch of breastfeeding blogs for you. And there is a link to a video that I didn't make, but I want you to watch. It's called Embarrassed, and it's a poem, and it's almost like it's a verbal poem. It's awesome. It's actually, as soon as you're done with this, go watch that. The link is down below. Please, please, pretty please share this video with your friends, especially if it resonated with you. Push like to this video and subscribe to our channel. And until next time, my friends, remember, I'll see you on the next video, and let your love and your milk flow.